What's up guys, I'm Nico of CAMCRUNCH, and this is going to be the second Q&A video on this channel. Yesterday I asked you guys to leave some questions on Facebook that I could answer on this video, so I'll do my best to answer them all one by one today, but there are some that I've actually already tackled in previous videos, and there's some that I don't quite understand, but I'll do my best to answer all of them today. So let's just go through one of them one by one. Let's start from the bottom. So the first question is, which Canon flash would you recommend? Now, there are 5 flashes in Canon's lineup, and I think I'd really just go for the 600EX RT, the 580EX2, or the 430EX2, depending on what you need. Now, if you are going to get multiple flashes and you want to invest in a wireless system, you might want to consider the 600 RT system. I think that right now, it's only worth it to get the 600 EX RT system if you are going to utilize that Canon radio trigger system. If you're not, then I'd go for the 580EX2 or the 430EX2, depending on how much power that you need. So those are the 3 that I would look at. If you have a 5D or something and you just want a nice, simple flash for maybe light fill, then you might want to look at the 270, I think. It's the tiny one that could work as a pop-up flash because the 5D or any of those, higher grade cameras don't have that pop-up flash. So you might want to look at that as well if that's what you're looking for. The second question is Lightroom versus Elements, pros and cons. Now, I actually haven't used Lightroom. I haven't used Elements in a long time, and I presume that means Elements, Photoshop Elements. So I haven't used that since like high school. So I don't really remember what it's like, but if it has Adobe Camera Raw, and I'm not sure if it does, but if it does have it, then it basically acts like Lightroom in terms of editing your raw files, and then it gives you that extra stuff that Photoshop Elements has. Now what Lightroom has that Elements doesn't have is the ability to manage your photographs and sort them out and categorize them and do all that stuff. That stuff isn't built into Elements. And if I was just getting one piece of software, I'd probably get Lightroom, simply for that reason, where I can really organize my files and all that stuff. The next question is how to print using Lightroom. Now, I get a lot of people that ask me how I print, and I'm not going to do a demonstration or anything like that today because I don't really want to do it with the cheap printer that I have at home. I want to do it with a nice printer, because with this printer at home, I basically just go to the print dialog box and print. But with a nicer printer, you have the option to download different paper profiles that you can't really do that with a cheaper printer. And you have other options in the print menu so that you can make your prints better. So I'll go over that in a future video. I think there's another question that also asks that. The next question is, will mirrorless cameras take over DSLRs now? Now, as it stands, they are two, separate things. And I guess they will always be two separate things because they are two separate things. But, DSLR is still up there. It still rules the camera market. But mirrorless is catching up. And I feel that if a mirrorless camera can be on par with the DSLRs out there, and there are some that are on par with some of the consumer DSLRs, but if there are more that get on par and they make their system more complete, so more accessories, more lenses, then I think that eventually people will look to mirrorless cameras before they look at DSLRs, because if there were mirrorless cameras when I was first looking for a camera, I would have probably chosen a mirrorless camera, simply because the DSLR is quite large. And right now, I have the 5D Mark II, as you know, but I'm seriously contemplating switching over to the mirrorless camera system, maybe a Fuji, maybe even the Olympus OMD EM5, even though that sensor is tiny. It does produce great results, and it comes in a really small package, really nice and tiny lenses, and that's really what I want right now, because I don't do any professional photography, as you guys know. So I want to be able to really just enjoy my camera, and I think that mirrorless camera at this point would be more convenient because I'd be able to take it around everywhere I go without carrying so much. And, you know, I just enjoy it more. So that's really just my take. So eventually when the mirrorless camera system becomes more complete, then we could see it, you know, overthrow the DSLR as the main camera for consumers. In terms of professionals, we haven't really seen that type of camera from the mirrorless market yet, where you have a nice large sensor with incredible high ISO, and I mean incredible, like D4 high ISO. We have seen fast frame rates, but we haven't seen, you know, super telephoto lenses. That's something you'll get with the DSLR only, and all that other cool stuff. So it might be a while, but I can see it happening in the future. But that's just my take. We'll have to see what happens. The next question is not really a question. It's strobes, please, and I will be doing more strobe tutorials on strobes, flashes, and all that stuff in the future. I've just been really busy with school, but those are definitely going to come. I haven't even done the review of these things yet, the Yongnuo YN 622, because I haven't really used them too much yet. They even still have the plastic on the top and the side, but I will be reviewing those when I get the chance. The next question is 5D Mark III or Nikon D600, Nikon, however you want to say it. Between the 5D Mark II and the D600, I'd go for the D600. I feel that it's new, you know, it's newer technology. You get better high, you get better high ISO performance from what I've read, and you get just all these, you know, a plethora of features that you didn't get in the 5D Mark II, and I believe they're in a similar price range. So I think I'd go for the D600. Of course, that also depends on what lenses you're looking at. Each camera system has different lenses, and sometimes their lenses aren't on par, and sometimes you want to lean towards a system where they have the lenses that you want and the quality that you want. Of course, I do love my 5D Mark II, and I feel like the Canon sensors are really, it feel like the look of it feels really different from the Nikon sensors. I don't know if that's just me or if more people feel that way, but I really feel that way. But I feel like the ergonomics of the Nikons, whatever, are a lot better. I really dislike how this feels in my hand. Before it was okay, but after holding so many other cameras, I just don't like the grips. Like, I don't know. I'd go with the D600. The next question is affordable telephoto zoom macro lens for Canon. For something like that, an affordable telephoto zoom macro, I think I'd look to Sigma. I think they have the 70-200 macro OS 2.8 lens, and I think that was only $600 or $700. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't know if the Canon versions close focus that much, and they aren't really affordable, so I think I'd go with the Sigma 70-200. I'm sure there are other options out there, but I haven't really been, you know, keeping up to date with all these other lenses and stuff, so that's really all I can say for now. If any of you guys have other opinions on that, just leave them in the comments box down below. The next question is, what is the difference between strobe lighting and continuous lighting for photography? Okay, so strobe lighting and continuous lighting. The basic difference is that the strobe light is added only when you take the picture, whereas continuous light it's there throughout. And I feel like it's easier to pump out lots of power with a strobe rather than a continuous light, because that continuous light has to be on that whole time, whereas with the strobe, you know, you're just popping the flash. It's also different when you meter, because the continuous light is always on. You're actually metering with that in your scene, so it's like your ambient light. Whereas with a strobe, you know, your flash is separate from your ambient light, so you have to work that out separately. But it makes for cool effects, because like low-key stuff where you drop your ambient light with your shutter speed and then you blast that flash so that you can light up your subject, you can't really do that easily, at least with continuous lighting. So you know, there are limitations to continuous lighting, but again, there are also limitations to strobe lighting. For basic stuff, you know, you see like a lot of the classic photographers, they use like continuous lighting. I don't know if there were strobes back then or whatever, but they've made some really nice shots with continuous lighting. And there's that one photographer, I think he's also on YouTube, Peter Hurley or something. He's the headshot photographer, and from the video that I saw on f-stoppers, he uses continuous lights for his headshots, and it's worked out for him, and it does a good job. So you'll have to look into both of those. But for me personally, I like sticking with strobes at the moment, but I am looking at continuous lights because the more I progress with my photography, the less and less I really want to use off-camera lighting. I just want to, you know, stick to the light that's there, and continuous light helps out with that. The next question is, do you use the standard Canon picture style, or have you installed your own? And I presume that means for video, and I have downloaded the, like, there are the two other popular picture styles. I forgot what they're called, but I haven't actually put them into my camera. Or maybe I have, but I don't use them. I don't really use them. I just stick with the Canon one because I don't, you know, I'm not a movie maker. I'm not a filmmaker. So I found that the standard Canon picture styles, you know, you make your own adjustments, and, you know, they work out just fine, for my needs at least. The next question is, what are some resources for photographers? Now, there are a ton of resources depending on what you want, whether you want gear reviews, whether you want tutorials, whether you just want, you know, opinions like on a forum and stuff like that. So there are a ton I can name. One review site that I always liked was The Digital Picture, and I think they only do Canon gear in different mounts, but I think they only do Canon. I'm not sure. I haven't looked there in a while. There's DP Review. If you're a Canon shooter, there's Photography on the Net, the Canon Photography Forum, where you can, you know, get tons of stuff. When you go to forum, I advise you to sort of like keep your mind open and take the information that you want and that you think you'll helpful, and just, you know, because there's lots of information on forums that are just, you know, you shouldn't pay attention to. Just take what you need and what you find helpful. And yeah, that's what you should get from forums. If you're looking for critique on your work, I really don't know where to go where people will give you like really good critique, because I find that a lot of people in the forums, you get like really mixed opinions, and it's like a mixture of, I don't know. It's like you can never really tell in a forum. A lot of it's like, well, your work's really good. You know, you get those kinds of responses. And a lot of the responses that you do get, they're like from gearheads and stuff that maybe like don't understand what you're trying to do with photography and that sort of stuff. So for critique, I'd really go to like photographers, like actual working photographers, or instructors or people that, you know, have been in the business, and that's where you should look for your critique. Lately I haven't been on any forum besides Rangefinder forum for Leica stuff, but that's just like the gearhead in me. Other resources, YouTube, entertainment, of course you have Digital Rev. If you want video related stuff, there's what's his name, Dave Dugdale from Learning DSLR Video. You have all sorts of stuff. If you want analog photography, there's two that I can recommend. There's PD Exposures. It's his name's Nate, and he does like analog stuff. And there's, I think, Mike Thomas. He also does analog stuff, and those are two that I watch. Another one for reviews is the Camera Store TV. That's also a good one. There are tons of resources out there, and I'm sure, you know, you have more in your mind right now, but those are the only ones that I can think of at the top of my head. You know, I eventually want CAMCRUNCH to be like a good resource for photographers, but, you know, that's a long ways away. The next one is getting crisp images, working with flashes, and get low key with no harsh light on subject. Okay, so how to get crisp images. I'm going to do a full video on this, but I can tell you some stuff right now. It's helpful to shoot at a higher ISO, not a higher ISO, a higher shutter speed, so that you don't get that blur. You want to hold your camera properly. You don't want to. I find that, you know, keeping your elbows tucked in, having a nice base is good. I don't even do this anymore, even though this is my base hand. I do this now to keep it more stable. I try not to do this. Actually, I don't do this, but I see a lot of people doing this. I think it would be more helpful to hold it like this, unless you're using like a telephoto lens on a monopod or something like that. Those are some tips. Get your focus correct. That's another big one, because if you aren't in focus like well, then your picture will look soft even though you shoot at high shutter speed and all that stuff. Low key without a harsh light, use a modifier. You can use softbox, something like that. Those all work. An umbrella. The next one is panning and time lapse. I'm not sure what the question is. Maybe it's like how to pan properly or how to do time lapses, but I'll probably look into a separate video because I haven't done any time lapses. Cropping images, this is a big one. I also might do a whole separate video on this, but generally I think that you should try not to crop. You learn more about composition and you get what you want. So it's not like something that's like after the fact. It's sort of like you see your composition and you take that composition and you learn a lot from that, rather than taking a picture and finding your composition afterwards. It's good to know what you want while you're shooting and then take the picture and then have a nice picture. But of course there are times where you have to crop to get a better picture, and you know, I don't mind that at all. Sometimes I crop on my pictures, even if it's just a little bit. Sometimes it's a lot. You know, what if you see something far away and you just can't get there in time, but it's that shot, you know, and you know that you'll have to crop a bit, then, you know, that's okay. But generally I try not to crop. What else? Cropping. Also, like when you crop, I recommend that if you're gonna crop, unless you're just cropping like a teeny tiny bit, like in the sides or something like that, if you want to make your image smaller, crop like proportionally in all sides, so you go inside to the middle. Sorry. And that makes like your perspective stay the same, because if you crop like this, it's like your center point always just stays where that's. So if your center point's here, but you crop only in the side, then, you know, your center point's like awkwardly in the side of the picture and it's only looking that way. So that's also something to know. Just crop towards the center. This video is getting long. I want to, okay, the next question is about printing. Again, that's going to be another video. And the last one is, what is needed for on lenses? That's the question I didn't quite understand. What is needed for on lenses? Yeah, so if you can get back and comment again on what specifically you wanted, then I'll be happy to answer that question in a future video. But I think that's it for now. I hope I answered your guys' questions. And yeah, if I didn't answer something clearly, just leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. And that's all for now. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't yet. I put up my first Photoshop tutorial yesterday, so just tell me how that goes. And yeah, like the video, favorite, subscribe, share if you want. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I have an Instagram, Tumblr, all that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.